Hello everyone, welcome to your Whiteboard Wednesday quantum teaching on the Akashic record. Now, this is one of my favorite topics to discuss simply because it comes through in readings with clients every single time. What is the Akashic record, you may ask? Well, in Hindu, it is actually translated as the sky or upper sky. However, the Akashic record is simply the name. I would say it's an ancient term, but really the modernized name of the records, the book of records, the astral space dedicated to time, past, present, and future, specifically past and future for every single life form, every single soul. So if you want to learn more about this is a brief channeling and teaching. Stick around. And if you want to learn more about other quantum topics, feel free to check out School of the Ascending on Instagram or Door to Value. You can search my name on YouTube for these videos. As always, it's important to keep in mind to only take what resonates and leave what doesn't. And should a topic interest you, be sure to initiate and take accountability for your own research. The Akashic record is very fascinating because when we get into the topic of, well, what faith is it connected to, we have to understand that its relevancy, its name, its presence has appeared in not only every single polytheistic religion, but every single monotheistic religion as well, faith, okay? And so every single religious text has this mention of a book of records, the account of every soul, where everything that the soul has experienced, namely it could be in this incarnation in this life, but also in previous lives, is in accordance with a documentation. Archangel Metatron is one of the main archangels who works with the Akashic records. Okay, now any of the archangels can obviously access the Akashic records, but Archangel Metatron is one of those bookkeepers, if you will. Is bookkeeper the right word? Yes. So yeah, like the gatekeeper, bookkeeper of the Akashic record, the accountant of the Akashic record is what I just heard. So Archangel Metatron was a human at some point. Not all of the archangels have been, only two specifically: Archangel Sandalphon, which is one of my spirit guides, and Archangel Michael. Archangel Metatron, I was just corrected. So Archangel Metatron, Michael could have been, but I don't get that. No, he was not. Okay, thank you. Archangel Metatron, who was Enoch, and Archangel Sandalphon, who was Elijah. So if we're going to go a little bit deeper into this conversation, I do have them here with me kind of helping me assist, because when I'm in channel mode and with a client, it becomes very natural in the way that the messages come through for me. I just want to assure you guys that you do not need a certification to be able to do these readings, but it does take practice to be able to pick up information on people's past lives. It wasn't something that I immediately jumped into, but it was something that just kind of started coming naturally in the readings, and clients had some overlap with that, where they would say, okay, this is a synchronicity with this lifetime that you're mentioning that I've lived in, that I've experienced, felt a connection to, or had another reader confirm for me before. So there's synchronicities like that. And that's when you can kind of know that you are one of those people who has some access to the records to help other people. But also the point is not even just for other people, it's for yourself, right? To understand your own journey, because it's not a physical place, but it's a space that exists on a dimensional level. It is something that can be accessed mobily, meaning that it's probably not the best word to use here, but remotely, I should say, okay? Remotely, mobily, meaning you don't need to actually be passed on to access it. You can astral travel, astral project into that space. If you're given access to do that, you might receive bits and pieces in relevance to either your journey, or if you are helping someone like a client, for example, for a reading, you might receive bits and pieces, and it could be because you may not have full access, or because you don't need to have the full access. You don't need to read that person's entire timeline. Like, for example, a lot of people say that, you know, in order to be here in the community, we must have lived thousands of lives. I can only recall 7 specifically, 5 that are very, very detailed, and I can pinpoint every single synchronicity with that. Is there a relevancy in knowing if you've had thousands of lives? Maybe you could be aware of that, but you probably will not all be made aware of such right away. And so the Akashic record is because it's not relevant to your journey is what I'm hearing in this present time. So you can think of it, because this is what they're showing me. So, you know, sometimes the spiritual depiction is that it is a library, which technically it is a book of records of the account of every soul. In the way that it's accessed is it can be seen as a library for some people who are tapping in, but for others it's seen as just a space where they're able to pull out the information from the astral space of the Akashic record. It's accessible remotely, mobily, okay? And but it resides in a specific dimension. I'm hearing you can access it in every dimension, but it's readily available from 7 to 11. 7 to 11. Could be also 9th to 11th dimension is what's coming through for that. But really the access of it, you can't make it logical. It's not a physical, three-dimensional, like a physical thing. It's a space that can be accessed remotely. So, but the way that they're showing me, for some reason, this image has been coming through since the beginning, is like literally like a timeline, right? But it has every single soul's past, present, and future. So you know how like growing up we would learn in school about different timelines, like 1800s, like Mesopotamia, or like you could see like 364 BC, like the 1800s, and then the 2000s, we'll say, okay? So, you know, there's a bunch of time in between then. So the Akashic record is sort of like, from the outside looking in, it's a timeline that exists. But as you fine tune and get closer to that space, you start to recognize that it does hold a similar energy to a library, where the book of accounts of every single life form, every single soul is accessible. Okay, so it is, I'm trying to make it as logical for you guys to understand and relevancy to the messages here and to this teaching. But essentially, it holds all time in its place and space. And as you go from it's like almost like you're looking from a bird's eye view of Earth, and then you sort of zoom in with a microscope, or on Google Earth. If you zoom in, you start to get into the specific countries, continents, countries, cities, and then the terrains of the cities. So you can think of it like looking at a map from Google Earth, okay? Looking at Earth from the outside, looking in through a telescope, and then you start to zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. You're zoomed in all the way in, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a specific city, in a specific neighborhood. That fine tune is the access to the actual records. And specifically, you will not have access to other people's records. You will have access to who you are allowed to see, meaning your own, unless you are reading for a client, of course. And so from the bird's eye view looking in, you know, dimensionally, if we were to make it as logical as possible, you would be seeing it in a sort of a timeline type of aspect. It's like the space of the dimension, okay? And so the grid, right, of the dimension. And basically, as you're going in, you're zooming in, you start to get into the Akashic record, and all of a sudden you're seeing different points of time, right? The past, present, and future. So it's almost like different portals of time that allow you to, and I'm getting something about time travel here as well, allow you to see the different aspects of time. One energy, one portal, one door is of the 1800s, the others of Mesopotamia, the others of during Jesus's time. It's all floating around, but not everyone will see this. So when we cross over, we will see this aspect, but when you're channeling the Akashic record, not every reader will see this part. So, but you have to think of it like from the outside, they're showing me from the outside zooming in. So from the outside, you see these, but as you get closer and closer to astral travel, and you will be redirected because there are gatekeepers I'm hearing in the Akashic, other accountants, not as powerful as Archangel Metatron, but still holding very high places in astral, who have access to these doors. And so you will see a veil over these doors where you are not allowed to access. And so that time period. And so basically it's like almost as if whenever we're trying to there's something about time travel that's coming through here with the Akashic record as well. So it's kind of like time travelers. Other extraterrestrial beings are able to go through different points of the Akashic record because it is like a timeline of different doors, different portals of different places and spaces in time, past, present, and future. The future is a little bit harder to access. You would have to have a higher sense of consciousness for that. A lot of extraterrestrial beings are not are forbidden from accessing. Some have already have access due to their technology. So as we zoom in, we start to enter into an actual, it's like a library, right? So our actual record. And it could be like a book for some of you guys. It might present that way. Okay, it's in the same language as if someone passes away. Who's the first ascended master or the first soul that they see? Usually for some, it could be Jesus right when they cross over, and their loved ones that have crossed over, grandparents, mother, father, etc. So it's similar like this. So for some of you guys, when you are accessing the Akashic record, you will see your specific record book, and you will only be shown the pages that you are meant to see, the times and your past lives that you are meant to see. For others, that is not the case. The way that the Akashic records is, it's a space dimensionally that exists, okay? But it can be accessed remotely at any point in time. So it's not a physical location per se, but it exists across several dimensional layers. Because of its coding and creation, the way that the creator has made it is that it's accessed through a higher dimensional plane only. It cannot be in the third dimension on Earth, because that's just impossible. We're already living in the present now, and that's how the third dimension is locked in the present moment. But as spiritual souls here, we are able to kind of somewhat astral travel, astral project, remote view. And so this is kind of how we have access to other dimensions. The more awakened you are, the farther along your ascension journey that you are, you might notice some of you guys are accessing these gifts where you can sort of astral travel, remote view in these different places in history. And so the way that it's going to come through is through clairvoyance for most of you guys, imagery. So if you're channeling for a client, you're doing a reading or a healing for a client, Akashic Records healing, it's likely that it's going to come through images. Maybe some of you guys through clairaudience, even if you're not a psychic medium, if you're not an intuitive per se, but if you're channeling and receiving messages to kind of help someone with their Akashic record journey, it's likely going to come through clairvoyance. Now, for some of you guys, it's going to present that, let's say you're reading for a client, for yourself, as a book, as a physical book where you can flip through the pages. For others, it's really not like that. For others, it's really the zooming in effect. So if we're looking from the outside looking in, we're starting to zoom, and all of a sudden what we're seeing is actually our account. When we're starting off and we're looking from the outside looking in, it really is this dimensional space. It cannot be pinpointed to locked into a particular dimension, okay, because of its complexity of creation. So you can think of it like, for example, how we are in the Milky Way galaxy. It's sort of like the Akashic record holds its own galaxy. It holds its own universe in a sense. Galaxy is what I'm being told to say, but it really takes place in several dimensions. And so to make it as logical as possible for you guys, it really is about zooming into that space and place where you are seeing like different doors of time, either yours or your clients. You will not have access to go into that space, but you will be shown the brief message that you need to be shown that is relevant to your present time, that will assist you for what you need to learn in this time. The reason is because we're not always meant to know about those other past lives, those thousands of other lives. Even if you were wealthy or not in that life, sometimes it has no relevancy to what you're doing here. There's only a specific number of lives that have a relevancy to what you chose, why you chose to be here today, why you're incarnated again, as far as lessons in karma and things like that. So at that point, it almost becomes like a history book, really, is what they're showing me. For some of you guys, it almost becomes like that screen of your past life that you're meant to see, a 360 of your soul that you're meant to see. Some extraterrestrial beings have the technology to be able to travel through the Akashic record. Obviously, due to the power, they're not able to access certain things or manipulate certain things, and so that's because there's the laws of the universe that are restricted with that. Even if they're, reptilians that have some type of agreement with AI technology, they don't have the creation rights to be able to manipulate time in the way that one might believe. What you really need to take away from this teaching is that the past, present, and future, the whole account of all life forms and all souls, lives in the Akashic record. It takes place in multiple dimensions. It can be accessed by extraterrestrial beings with certain technology, like in the same way of time traveling, but due to the laws of the universe, they will not have access to different points or to manipulate time, because it is the free will of humans that we have the access to manipulate, meaning maneuvering like a steering wheel, going right or left, different aspects of time collectively. But fate will always have fixed points in the Akashic record. Destiny will have fixed points in the Akashic record that cannot be rewritten, is what I'm hearing. You have access to your Akashic record. Everyone does. This isn't like an elite thing. Like, you have access to your Akashic record. You will only be shown, however, what you're meant to see. And there are certain lives that you will not be shown because it's just simply not relevant for you in this present incarnation, because our main mission is to focus on the present and also what we're trying to create for future timelines, but also also because the present is the only time that's happening now, we're really not guided to go so deep into incarnations that have, again, no relevancy for the present moment. So please let me know what questions specifically you have. I do feel that maybe some of you guys will have some questions about the Akashic record. So please let me know. Leave your comments down below. And until next time, go and grow.